I want you to close your eyes for a second, and just imagine a sound, but not, a sound you can actually hear with your ears.
Right.
Imagine a sound you feel entirely in your bones.
Yeah.
Like, picture a deep, rhythmic, almost sub-audible hum. It's like this heavy heartbeat vibrating right through the floorboards of the world.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And now, imagine that hum is being driven by the relentless electrical crackle of 50 lightning strikes hitting the Earth. And not 50 strikes a day, I mean 50 strikes every single second. Constantly.
It's a pretty staggering image when you actually pause to visualize it. I mean, if human hearing had evolved to be tuned just a tiny bit differently, that deep, relentless drumbeat is exactly what we would hear everywhere, all the time.
Yeah, which is wild to think about. Welcome to today's Deep Dive, everyone.
Okay.
We are taking you on a journey into the Schumann Resonance Field Guide, which comes to us from the Golden Monkey Life platform. But let me just be clear right up front. The mission of today's deep dive isn't just to passively feed you facts about Earth's electromagnetic field. We're not here to read you a textbook.
No, definitely not.
Right. We want to fundamentally change your relationship with this unseen field.
Which is such a necessary shift because, for a lot of people who track this kind of atmospheric data, their default setting is just totally passive.
Yeah.
They look at the daily charts and ask, why do I feel like this today? Why am I so anxious? Or why am I so exhausted?
Exactly. They treat it like a weather report that's out to get them.
Exactly. They treat the electromagnetic field like it is something happening to them. So our goal today is to shift that question entirely. We need to move from, why is this happening to me, to how do I work with this consciously?
And to pull that off, we're leaning heavily into a metaphor that the Golden Monkey Guide uses to frame this entire process. And it's the ancient theme of alchemy.
I love this frame. It's so good, right? Because the ultimate goal of the alchemist historically was to turn raw, heavy lead into gold.
Right. And in this modern framework, the Earth's electromagnetic field, it acts as the alchemical crucible.
The crucible, yeah.
The crucible provides the environment, the heat and the pressure. And you, the listener, you are the alchemist.
Okay, so if I'm the alchemist, what's the lead?
The raw material you are working with, that restless, reactive, spinning monkey mind that constantly gets stirred up by life, that heavy density, that is the lead.
That makes so much sense. And the gold, then, is what happens when you actually refine it. The gold is the inner stillness. It's the clarity, the purified awareness that you achieve right in the middle of all the chaos. It's what happens when you stop fighting your environment and start, using the heat to your advantage.
Absolutely.
But before we can learn to be the alchemist, I feel like we really need to understand the literal crucible we're sitting inside. I know the source notes mentioned a discovery back in the 1950s, but how did we even figure out the Earth has a pulse? Well, it started back in 1952 with a German physicist. His name was Winfried Otto Schumann, and he was actually right in the middle of teaching a lecture at the Technical University of Munich.
Oh, really? Just mid-class?
Yeah, mid-lecture. A student asked a theoretical question that essentially stopped him in his tracks. The student asked if the space between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere forms a giant spherical cavity, what electromagnetic frequencies would naturally resonate inside of it?
Wait, let me make sure I'm picturing this correctly. When you say cavity, you mean the gap between the ground we walk on and, the upper atmosphere.
Right.
So it's almost like we're living inside the hollow body of a giant acoustic guitar.
That is a perfect way to look at it. The Earth's surface is electrically conductive, right?
Okay.
And the ionosphere, which sits about 90 kilometers above us, is a layer of charged plasma, which is also conductive.
Okay.
So that 90-kilometer gap between them becomes this enormous electromagnetic echo chamber. So Schumann did the pure physics math to figure out, what frequency would bounce around perfectly inside that specific space.
And what was the number?
The number he calculated was approximately 7.83 hertz.
Okay, but what actually creates the sound? Or I guess the frequency.
Going back to that visceral image we opened with, the lightning is the drumstick.
Right.
Yeah, at any given moment, there are roughly 2,000 active thunderstorms across the globe. That generates about 50 lightning strikes per second.
Every second. That's just wild.
Every single second. And every time a bolt hits, it pumps an immense amount of energy into this giant echo chamber. That energy bounces around, it resonates, and eventually settles at a fundamental base frequency of 7.83 hertz, with, a few harmonics echoing at 14.3, 20.8, 27.3, and 33.8 hertz. Hertz.
Okay, I have to stop you here and challenge this a bit. Because if you spend any time on forums or like social media looking up the Earth's frequency, you will inevitably see half a dozen charts claiming that the Earth is speeding up or ascending, and that the base frequency has permanently shifted to 40 hertz.
Right, I've seen those.
Are you saying they're just misreading their own data?
They are absolutely misreading it, and the source material is very firm on this point. We really need to clear that misconception up immediately.
Please do.
The fundamental frequency of the Earth's cavity has not permanently shifted to 40 hertz. I mean, the physical geometry of the Earth hasn't changed, right? So the base frequency remains at 7.83 hertz.
Okay, then what are they seeing on those charts?
What changes and what those charts are actually measuring is the amplitude.
Let me see if I have this straight. The frequency is the speed of the vibration, but the amplitude is the volume, like turning up the dial on a stereo.
Yeah, or think of it like a river. The riverbed itself, the actual path it carves through the land, that is the frequency. It is constant. But depending on, say, a massive rainstorm or a sudden snowmelt, the actual water in that river might flow much faster and much harder. The river didn't change its location, but its intensity completely shifted.
That makes so much sense.
Right. So when people see those massive spikes on the charts, they're looking at amplitude. The volume of the energy is increasing, and that intensity is absolutely something you feel.
Which brings up a really crucial question for me. If the Earth's field is essentially just millions of lightning bolts bouncing around a giant atmospheric echo chamber, why does human biology even care? I mean, we're organic matter, not radios.
We might not have antennas, but we are bioelectric beings. Your brain operates using electrical impulses, and here's where the overlap gets incredibly fascinating.
Okay, I love this part.
That fundamental drumbeat of 7.83 hertz, it sits exactly on the boundary between two highly specific human brainwave states.
Which states?
It sits right on the edge between alpha brainwaves and theta brainwaves.
Oh.
Yeah, alpha waves operate from about 8 to 13 hertz. That is the brain state associated with, like, relaxed alertness. It's your creative flow state.
So it's the state you're in when you're deep in a hobby, or suddenly get a brilliant idea while you're just washing the dishes.
Precisely. And then theta waves are slightly slower, running from 4 to 8 hertz. That's the zone of deep meditation. It's also where you hit the hypnagogic edge.
The hypnagogic edge. Just to define that so we don't lose anyone, that's that weird, floaty, transitional state right before you fall asleep. Right, where your thoughts stop being strictly logical and you start having those vivid, disjointed micro dreams.
Yes, exactly. It is the gateway to the subconscious. And the Earth's heartbeat is humming right at the exact mathematical border of those two specific states.
See, I'm naturally skeptical of things that sound like poetic coincidences. Do we actually have hard data showing our brains are interacting with this field, or does it just happen to be the same number?
We actually have very compelling hard data.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the source guide highlights a massive study from 2016 out of Laurentian University. Researchers monitored 184 individuals over a period of 3.5 years.
That's a huge sample size for an EEG study.
It is. They took continuous EEG readings of the subjects' brains and cross-referenced them with the electromagnetic readings of the Earth ionospheric cavity.
And what did they find?
They found unexpected, highly measurable similarities in the spectral patterns. Basically, our brains and the Earth were producing mirroring patterns. And there was another study in 2006 showing real-time coherence between the Schumann resonance and human brain activity.
But how does that physically work? I really want to understand the actual mechanism here. How does a lightning storm over the Pacific Ocean alter the electricity inside my skull?
It comes down to a principle called electromagnetic induction.
Induction, okay.
You know how a wireless phone charger works? You don't plug a cable into the phone, you just set it on the pad.
Right.
The pad generates an electromagnetic field, and because the phone has a conductive coil inside it, that external field literally induces an electrical current inside the phone, charging the battery.
So the ambient magnetic field pushes electrons around without ever physically touching them.
Exactly. And your nervous system is a highly sensitive, conductive network of water and minerals.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. When the Earth's electromagnetic field fluctuates heavily, when that amplitude spikes, that ambient field can induce microscopic changes in the electrical currents of your brain and nervous system. It's subtle, but it is very real.
Okay, pulling this back to the alchemical metaphor for a second. Our nervous systems have been developing inside this specific electromagnetic field since the moment we were born. So when the amplitude of that field spikes, when the river suddenly flows faster and harder, it applies heat to our nervous system. The crucible gets hot.
And what happens when the alchemical crucible gets hot? It stirs up the lead.
The lead. Wow.
That heat forces all your dense, unprocessed raw materials straight to the surface.
Oh.
Old behavioral patterns, unprocessed grief, physical restlessness, anxiety.
It all just bubbles up.
Exactly. The field isn't doing this to punish you. It's providing the exact electromagnetic friction required for transformation.
But to work with that heat, rather than just, suffering through it and assuming you're having a random breakdown, you need a guide. You need to be able to actually see the heat. The source material talks heavily about using a spectrogram. What is that?
A spectrogram is essentially your visual field guide. The primary one used by the Golden Monkey platform is sourced from a space observing system in Tomsk, Russia.
Okay.
It displays 3 days of electromagnetic data at a time, and once you know how to read it, it's like having a weather report for your nervous system.
The guide compares reading this chart to a surfer checking the ocean report before paddling out, which I think is just brilliant. Let's break down how to actually read it. From what I understand, time runs horizontally left to right and frequency runs vertically. Right. But the most important part is the color.
Yes. The color represents the amplitude, the intensity of the signal we were just talking about. On these charts, amplitude is measured in a unit called picoteslas.
Wait, picoteslas, just so we're all on the exact same page, what does that actually measure? Is that a measure of magnetic strength?
It is, yeah. A tesla is the standard unit of magnetic flux density. A picotesla is simply 1/1,000,000th of a Tesla.
Oh, wow. That's tiny.
Incredibly tiny, which makes sense because we're measuring very subtle atmospheric magnetic fields, not, refrigerator magnets.
Got it. So let's look at the color scale of the surf based on those picoteslas.
Yeah.
What does the chart look like on a calm day?
Let's start with the ideal conditions. Deep blue or indigo. This means the amplitude is low, hovering under 20 picoteslas. The field is very quiet.
The glass ocean.
Exactly. Completely quiet baseline. On a blue day, your nervous system feels spacious. Deep meditation lands easily. Your focus is sharp.
Nice.
In alchemical terms, this is when the crucible cools enough for the gold to actually settle.
But the ocean doesn't stay glass forever. Next up, the chart shifts into green, which covers the 20 to 50 picotesla range. The swell is up.
Yeah, when you see green, the field is active. It's applying a moderate amount of heat. You'll likely feel a physical restlessness in your body, like a buzz. Ideas might arrive much faster than usual. It's a fantastic time to paddle out and create, but you have to actively ground yourself so that electric charge doesn't tip over into anxiety.
And then we get into the heavy stuff, orange and yellow. We're talking 50 to 150 picoteslas.
Storm conditions, heavy chopping surf. This represents sustained elevation in the field's intensity, and this is typically when you feel deep fatigue, emotional flooding, and heavy brain fog. The forge is running at maximum heat.
And finally, the phenomenon people talk about the most, the white flash, anything over 150 picoteslas.
The spike, the wipeout. It manifests as a sudden vertical white line on the chart. It hits fast and hard. If you're sensitive to the field, a white flash often feels like sudden disorientation, intense anxiety coming out of nowhere, or even heart palpitations.
This is where I want to pause, because this reframes entirely how I view a bad day.
Oh, completely.
Like, if I wake up on a Tuesday feeling incredibly anxious or overwhelmed by emotional flooding, my first instinct is usually to blame my job, or my lack of sleep, or some life choice I made. I shouldn't automatically do that.
That is perhaps the single most liberating insight from this entire framework. No, you should not automatically blame yourself.
Wow.
When you feel that sudden crushing density, check the chart. Often, you will find you're standing in the middle of a massive white flash. It's the great alchemy at work.
That's amazing.
The field isn't out to get you. It's simply providing the intense pressure needed for the lead to finally move. Unprocessed human emotion literally has to be heated up to be released.
Just knowing that provides such a massive relief. It really takes the shame out of the anxiety. But it also begs a huge practical question. When that chart flashes white and I experience a field wipeout, how do I avoid just drowning in the restless monkey mind? Because knowing it's a magnetic spike doesn't just magically make the panic go away.
Yeah.
Every surfer needs a leash to stay attached to the board.
They absolutely do. And this brings us to the multi-layered toolkit the guide provides. They use an acronym to wrap all of this up, which is EFT.
Okay, let's unpack EFT. It stands for the phenomena we are experiencing, Earth frequency transmissions.
Right.
But it also doubles as our primary survival tool to deal with them, emotional freedom techniques, otherwise known as tapping.
Exactly. Before we even get into the mechanics of tapping, though, the guide outlines a very specific, almost military-style protocol for the immediate aftermath of a white flash.
Okay, what do we do?
If you get hit by a spike and feel wiped out, the very first thing you do is stop. Mid-sentence, mid-email, mid-argument. Stop. Feel the physical floor beneath your feet.
Anchor the physical body first.
Yes. Next, you move immediately to box breathing. You inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and hold empty for 4 counts. You do this to manually override your sympathetic nervous system.
The sympathetic nervous system being our internal alarm system, right? The fight or flight response.
Exactly. When the field spikes, your sympathetic nervous system assumes a tiger is in the room. Box breathing sends a mechanical signal to the brain that you are safe.
And this next rule in the protocol is my absolute favorite.
Yeah.
Make absolutely no big decisions for 24 hours.
I cannot emphasize how crucial that rule is. During a heavy amplitude spike, your perception of reality and your sense of urgency are genuinely altered.
Yeah.
That angry text you want to send, that job you want to quit, wait a full day, let the field settle, and finally, eat root vegetables.
Root vegetables. Really?
It sounds almost silly, but nourishing the body with something heavy grown beneath the soil physically grounds your digestion.
Okay, so that triage protocol keeps you from drowning, but EFT tapping is the leash that actually pulls you back onto the surfboard.
I really want to walk through the mechanics of this because I see people doing it, but I don't fully understand it. From the guide, EFT involves physically tapping your fingers on 9 specific acupressure points on your body, right? That's right. You are literally tapping points like the karate chop side of your hand, the top of your head, your eyebrow, under your eye, your collarbone. And while you are physically tapping these meridian points, you speak a setup statement out loud.
Let's do an example. What am I actually saying while I'm tapping my collarbone?
The setup statement is brilliant because it combines 2 proven psychological tools with somatic physical stimulation. It uses exposure therapy, meaning you explicitly name the uncomfortable feeling, the anxiety, the lead that is bubbling up.
Right.
But it combines that with cognitive reframing, where you verbally accept yourself despite the feeling.
So I would say something like, even though I feel suddenly panicked and untethered by this field spike, I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
That is perfect. By stating the problem while tapping, you are directly addressing the amygdala.
The amygdala is the small almond-shaped part of the brain that processes fear, right?
Exactly. The amygdala is the brain's threat detection center. By tapping on these dense bundles of nerve endings while acknowledging the fear out loud, you are sending a calming, down-regulating signal straight to the amygdala. You are physically deactivating the alarm while mentally looking right at the threat.
But the guide has this incredibly counterintuitive tip about when you're supposed to do this tapping sequence.
Oh, yeah. This is where most people get it wrong. Most people want to wait until the storm passes. They want to wait until they feel a little bit calmer to sit down and do their inner work or their tapping.
Naturally.
But the Golden Monkey guy says the exact opposite. You must start tapping while the spike is at its most intense.
You want me to tap while I am actively getting dragged underwater by the wave? That sounds incredibly difficult.
It is difficult, but tapping is the active ingredient. It is the action that turns the lead into gold in real time.
Oh, wow.
If you wait until the crucible cools down, the emotional material just hardens and sinks back down into the subconscious again. You have to strike the metal while the forge is hot. The spike is giving you the heat. Use it.
That makes so much sense. You need the friction to create the change. Now, EFT isn't the only tool in the surfer's kit bag. The guide mentions a few other somatic tools, and I want to understand why they work, not just what they are.
Sure.
For example, earthing. Literally standing with your bare feet on natural soil or grass. Why does dirt help my anxiety?
It goes back to our bioelectric nature. The Earth's surface has a subtle negative electrical charge. When the amplitude of the field spikes, our bodies can build up a positive electrical charge, essentially static stress.
Okay.
By placing your bare skin on the earth, you allow a transfer of free electrons from the ground into your body, physically equalizing your electrical charge. It is literally grounding a circuit.
Wow. Okay, what about cold exposure? The guide suggests splashing freezing water on your face during a spike.
Splashing cold water on your face immediately triggers what is called the mammalian dive reflex.
The instinct that kicks in when you fall into freezing water to keep you alive?
Yes, and triggering that reflex instantly activates your vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the main information highway between your brain and your major organs, and it acts as the primary brake pedal for your nervous system. Activating it with cold water forcefully slows your heart rate down, regardless of what the magnetic field is doing.
That's fascinating. And the last one is humming. Just physically humming a deep note to yourself.
Humming vibrates the tissues in your throat and chest, which also runs right along the vagus nerve.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it creates a self-generated low-frequency internal resonance that naturally downregulates your stress response. You are essentially creating your own calm frequency to compete with the chaotic external one.
These are such incredibly practical ways to manage the lead when the field amplitude goes off the charts.
Hmm.
If we step back and look at the whole picture, we started by decoding the 7.83 hertz drumbeat of the Earth. We explored how that frequency mathematically overlaps with our alpha and theta brainwaves. We learned how electromagnetic induction actually makes our bodies feel the heat of the atmospheric crucible.
And we also learned how to read that heat on the Tomsk spectrogram, checking our ocean report so we know whether we're dealing with a glass day, a green swell, or a white flash wipeout.
And we unpacked the multi-layered EFT toolkit, the physical and emotional levers we can pull, like tapping, dox, breathing, and earthing, to stay on the board when the field gets chaotic.
Exactly.
But here's where we reach the final alchemical shift of the guide. Because the point of all this isn't just to become a really resilient surfer who survives the heavy waves.
No, surviving isn't the end game. The ultimate alchemy, the true lasting gold, is becoming the clear, still, luminous thing that holds the wave.
Holds the wave, yeah.
It's developing a vast internal capacity where the storm, the spike, the active field, they move through you, but you are not moved by them. You don't disconnect from the physical discomfort, but you're so deeply rooted that the field's fluctuations are just weather passing over a mountain.
It's the difference between constantly bracing for impact and expanding yourself to hold the entire storm. That is the gold.
Perfectly said.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a thought to chew on. We spent this entire time talking about the natural frequencies of the Earth. But you and I are currently sitting inside a dense soup of artificial frequencies. Wi-Fi routers, 5G towers, Bluetooth signals.
Which is a whole other layer.
Exactly. If a spike in a natural magnetic field can induce this much heat in our nervous systems, are our modern environments keeping us in a state of a perpetual synthetic white flash? And if so, how urgently do we need to master these tools?
That is the modern alchemist's true challenge.
It really is. So, as you navigate the noise of this week, we leave you with this final question. Will you continue being an unconscious victim of the energetic field? Or are you prepared to do what it takes to become the alchemist?